Are you missing the sounds that matter most? What if you could hear every word, every laugh, and every moment crystal clear without spending thousands on expensive hearing aids? Introducing Audien Atom, the world's most affordable FDA-approved hearing aid. With the revolutionary A2 chip, you get premium sound, zero background noise, and a 24-hour rechargeable battery. They even have Bluetooth connectivity to connect to your cell phone or TV. Unlike those traditional bulky $5,000 prescription hearing aids, the Audien Atom is 90% smaller, 20 times cheaper, and works instantly. No visits to the audiologist needed. Audien Atom has over 500,000 happy customers who have trusted Audien Atom to restore their hearing. Our 100% money-back guarantee means zero risk to try. Don't like them? Simply return them and get your money back. They also come with a lifetime warranty. For the next 72 hours, the Audien Atom is 53% off. Go to tryhearingaid.com right now to order your pair for only $99. Again, go to tryhearingaid.com to order your pair for only $99. Order now before it's too late, as these hearing aids have sold out over 10 times this year. With Audien Atom, you can hear life again.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Off to Washington now to talk to LBC's Washington correspondent Simon Marks. Hello, Simon.
Evening, Nick.
So it appears that Vladimir Putin is less enamoured of Donald Trump than Donald Trump is of Vladimir Putin.
Well, we're in an amazing position tonight. I mean, remember that this time last week, Donald Trump had not yet departed Washington, D.C. to head to Alaska for that all-important summit meeting with Vladimir Putin. He was convinced that there was going to be a breakthrough, and he said that if he didn't secure Vladimir Putin's backing for a ceasefire, or at least got some indication from the Russian leader that he was committed to wrapping the war up, very severe consequences would follow from Russia. For Russia. What we have seen over the course of the last week, since the collapse of that summit last Friday night, the president drifting all weekend last weekend closer into the Kremlin's orbit, European leaders racing here on Monday to try and protect Volodymyr Zelensky from coming in for another White House drubbing. What we've seen all week long from the Russians is a systematic effort to demolish every single claim that Donald Trump has made about the future of this peace process. He said that he's ready to broker a bilateral face-to-face meeting between Putin and Zelensky, and that Zelensky was on board for it, and he believed after the Alaska summit that Putin was on board for it as well. So it was only a matter of time. It was imminent, according to some White House officials, that this meeting between Putin and Zelensky would take place. It's not going to happen. We've seen Russian officials over the last 24 hours not only pour cold water on the idea that a meeting can happen soon. They say there's all sorts of things that have to be arranged before any kind of meeting can take place. But also, even today, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov calling into question Zelensky's legitimacy as Ukrainian president, saying the Russians would have to be very careful about making sure that any agreement that they struck was signed by a legitimate Ukrainian leader, by which they mean that Zelensky they deem is not legitimate in power because he cancelled last year's elections in Ukraine, delaying them, of course, because Ukraine was coming under continuing assault by the Russians, as it did again last night, one of the largest barrages of missiles and rockets to rain down on the country, in this case destroying, among many other things, a US-owned electronics firm in the west of Ukraine. So suddenly today, Donald Trump, having seen all the talk of a Putin-Zelensky meeting disappear, having seen the Russians say that no, actually they've got no interest whatsoever in any boots on the ground conducting peacekeeping operations that come from European countries that are members of NATO. They've ruled that out completely. All of that talk last weekend about Article 5-like language that Witkoff, the president's special envoy, was proclaiming as a breakthrough, all of that is dead as a dodo. Today, suddenly, Donald Trump took to social media to suggest, it appeared that he was suggesting, that perhaps Ukraine should actually now start fighting back. It is very hard, if not impossible, he said, to win a war without attacking an invader's country. It's like a great team in sports that has a fantastic defence but is not allowed to play offence. And he blamed Joe Biden for that. He said Joe Biden would not let Ukraine fight back. this, of course, was taking place at a time when Donald Trump was telling the country that he was going to terminate all American support for Ukraine. Now he appears to be suggesting that he thinks Ukraine ought to be allowed to fight back and hit Russian territory. He doesn't say that expressly, but he does conclude this message on Truth Social by saying, interesting times ahead. Now, whether that message is designed to put pressure on Vladimir Putin or not is unclear. But if it is designed to put pressure on Vladimir Putin, I think the Russian leader tonight in the Kremlin will just probably pour himself another stiff one.
Yeah, Putin said he isn't interested in meeting Zelensky unless he agrees to Russia's maximalist demands, which presumably is, at the very least, to cede all of the territory that Russia has so far got.
Yes, absolutely. He wants Crimea back. He wants the whole of the Donbass region. He wants Ukraine to agree never to become a member of NATO. And now he wants the peacekeeping operation that European leaders thought they were making some headway on with Donald Trump earlier in the week, including our own Prime Minister. He wants those peacekeeping operations to be the sole preserve of the United Nations Security Council. It must be the UN Security Council that determines the makeup of peacekeeping operations. That will be the same UN Security Council on which the Kremlin has a veto, one of the permanent 5 members, just as the UK, the French, the Americans, of course, as well, and the Chinese have vetoes on the Security Council. He's also said through officials this week that the whole idea of peacekeeping operations only being designed to defend Ukraine from possible Russian aggression is wrong, that in fact the peacekeeping operations absolutely need to be designed to defend Russia from Ukrainian aggression. And as a result, he's saying that Russia has to have a seat around the table to discuss the architecture of that peacekeeping force. So all of this stuff, all of it has been kicked into the long grass by the Russians, and Vladimir Putin has essentially played Donald Trump completely from the very moment he disembarked from that Russian jet and set foot on American soil 1 week ago on Friday.
Yeah, one of the suggestions from the Russian, well, it wasn't a suggestion, it was like laying down the law, was that they want a peacekeeping force made up of Russian and Chinese troops.
Yeah, well, they want the Russians, they want the Chinese, they definitely want the Hungarians involved, given Vladimir Putin's cosy relationship with Viktor Orban of Hungary. And that's the whole reason why they're promoting this idea of it going to the UN Security Council. By the way, they blamed today Boris Johnson for the reason that the war is still taking place. They say that low-level Ukrainian and Russian officials back in April of 2022 had agreed this idea of moving the entire design of the peacekeeping operation to the United Nations Security Council. And I think it was Lavrov yesterday that claimed it was all the fault of Boris Johnson because he managed to persuade other European allies and the Americans to have absolutely no truck with any of this, and the Ukrainians. And the reason why the conflict has continued, Lavrov suggested, since April 2022 is because of Boris Johnson's intervention. So another one on Boris Johnson's record, according to the Russians.
Well, when somebody can locate which skip Boris Johnson is sleeping in, I'm sure he'll take that very badly. It is interesting, isn't it, that Trump has seems to have done a 180-degree turn, because he was blaming Ukraine for starting the war. He said that, you shouldn't, you're ill-advised to start a war with a bigger country, which is, of course, the opposite way around to how it is. And now he says that Ukraine should have attacked Russia all along, and it was Joe Biden's fault that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine can't ever win. He has, again this week, as you say, falsely claimed that Ukraine started the war. And now tonight he's having a go at earlier today, he's having a go at the Ukrainians for not having fought back sufficiently against the Russians. Now, you've got to wonder in his own mind how he squares any of this stuff. And then you've got, various Trump acolytes or sycophants, depending on your preferred description, fanning out and trying to defend this. I don't know if you heard Sebastian Gorka's interview with Ben Kentish on LBC a couple of days ago on the Drive Time programme.
No.
I mean, absolutely refusing point blank to answer a whole series of perfectly reasonable, completely trenchant questions that Ben was putting to him. And yet they still go out there and try and defend a policy that is no longer a policy, a strategy that has been demolished by the Russians in the space of just 1 week.
It is interesting that, as you said before, one of the... Well, I don't know whether it's... Do you think it was a target to bomb that American business in Ukraine, or was that just an accident?
Well, Zelensky says that he thinks it was definitely a target. I've not seen how the Russians have responded to that. I mean, there were so many targets last night, such a barrage of missiles and rockets, that it's perfectly possible that some could have strayed from their targets. It's also perfectly possible that it was a deliberate strategy by Putin and the Russians to try and continue to sort of goad and tweak Donald Trump and make it clear precisely who owns him at this point.
Now, you being in Washington, D.C., you are, of course, very lucky to have survived this long and still be alive, it being the world's most dangerous city, and I believe Trump is going to have a look at it himself this evening.
He's been out already. We were told... I'm a bit disappointed, I have to tell you, Nick. We were told he was going to do a ride-along with the cops and the National Guard and the masked agents that he's brought here to fix a crime wave that actually is not, in any sense, unprecedented, and indeed statistics that show violent crime is at a 30-year low in the city. In the event, however, he's not doing a ride-along. He went down to Anacostia, which is one of the least affluent neighbourhoods in Washington, D.C., and where crime is prevalent, and he addressed a whole group of the National Guard and agents from various federal agencies and pledged that he's going to return life to normal in Washington, even though life is absolutely normal in Washington. But then, Nick, then came the big announcement.
One of the things we're going to be redoing is your parks. I'm very good at grass because I have a lot of golf courses all over the place. I know more about grass than any human being, I think, anywhere in the world. And we're going to be regrassing all of your parks, all brand new sprinkler systems, the best that you can buy. We're going to have all brand new, beautiful grass. You know, like everything else, grass has a life. Do you know that? Grass has a life. You know, we have a life and grass has a life. And the grass here died about 40 years ago.
Did you know grass has a life? Did you know that?
I didn't, but I did know that nobody on Earth knows more about grass than he does.
Nobody knows. I'm so excited about the new grass, I can't tell you.
Can you send me that clip? Because that's the very thing that I want to play a lot on my Friday and Saturday night shows.
Already planned, mate. Already planned.
And I do believe that Trump has actually had a win. Quite a major one, actually.
He has had a major win. He's had a major win up in New York, an appeals court there. Remember, of course, that he was fined $500 million for defrauding various people, engaging in a conspiracy, a business conspiracy to overinflate the value of his assets in order to attract loans on favourable rates. You know, that huge case that was brought against him by Letitia James, the New York Attorney General. He was fined $500 million, and today an appeals court sided with Trump, overturned that fine completely, kept the outcome of the trial, the conviction, in place, but he can now go and try and appeal against that as well. So he's still officially, you know, a felon, having committed that fraud, but he's got away without having to pay the fine, and they are increasingly confident in Trump world tonight that they're going to be able to overturn the verdict as well on appeal.
Always good to talk to you, Simon. Thanks for that.
Cheers, Nick.
Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent.